What's up, everybody? It's LG here from the First Mint, and we are in for a very special session today. We don't really have a name for this show. It's kind of like our community show that we're doing every Wednesday at noon Pacific, or every Wednesday, I mean, as in last week and this week. Maybe we'll do some more. Anyways, we got a great panel of guests coming up today, and the topic for the day is the best NFTs under $1,000 or zero point 0.3 ETH. If that is kind of accurate right now, ETH kind of fluctuating a little bit these days, but it's somewhere around there. And we have a lot of fantastic guests up here today. It's going to be kind of an open discussion. You know, we like to do these pretty structured, but we kind of want to hear from everybody, and I especially want to get some spicy commentary because I don't think anything's better than a nice red hot NFT debate, especially when there's only when we're talking about things that are not really blue chips yet, right? Of course, and maybe we'll talk about some blue chips, but we're not talking cool cats or apes or dogs or any of that kind of stuff today. We're talking about NFTs that you guys might be thinking about snagging, that I might be thinking about snagging for under $1,000. $1,000, kind of a big price tag when you think about it, but come on, guys, it's crypto. You want to make it here. If you're going to make it, you got to be ready to spend a little bit, and hopefully some of you guys have accumulated some profits over time where you're ready to spend them a little bit. Let's go around the room and say what's up. We have somebody up here that we have not. I don't think has ever been on the First Mint, but we've been following for a long time and is obviously done incredibly well in the NFT community. Somebody that people really look up to. Zeneca, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing? I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dude, very, very happy to have you. And I have to say, obviously you've done incredibly well. I've listened to your podcast; it's great, and I think a lot of people trust your opinion. And we're very happy that you can make time for us. I'm very eager to hear what you have to say. Let's go around the panel, then we'll kind of come back around. CT, what's cracking?
Hey LG, what's going on? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready to get this going, honestly. I feel like this is something that you and I talk about sometimes, and you're definitely one of the people that I know is always kind of lurking late at night, early in the morning, looking for those sweet deals on NFTs. So very keen to hear what you got to say.
Not as much as Bakra, but close.
Okay, maybe we'll get Backer up here by the end of the day. Phil D, what's cracking?
Whoa, LG. What's up, man? Dude,
Always so
we
surprised.
listen, man. We've been snowed in like never before for the last 2 days.
Oh
So I
boy.
finally got to get out today
hmm
and not spend the entire day shoveling and shoveling and shoveling and shoveling. So I'm feeling good today, man. I'm ready to go, and I can't wait to hear. I'm kind of here. I'll have a lot of comments, a lot of stuff. I was dying yesterday after the First Mint posted, the ad for this show, and some of the responses. Man, it turned into like some crazy, crazy, crazy party of people trying to sell us their stuff. And yeah, I saw some crazy stuff, man. So I can't wait to hear what everyone has to say, and I'll probably have a couple stories myself somewhere in there.
Absolutely, Phil D. Always on the lookout. I know, Phil, you like to play kind of a lot more in the flow ecosystem, which is very accessible for people. So, and you're always out on the lookout for a sweet deal. And Quad. I feel like since we haven't done a live show in a while, I feel like I haven't talked to you in so long.
What's good? What's good, LG? I
Are
know it,
you?
it, it seems like way too long. I was out for, I'm still one of those losers with a real job. I'm not a big baller like corporate trash over here. Just quits her job, going straight headfirst into the NFT world. I'm still over here working for a small business, but I've been offline for the majority of last week, so I am pumped to get back on the spaces, talking to all things NFTs after
Mhm.
Quad's chat last night. So we are definitely excited for this one.
And Quad, again, extended happy birthday from a week ago, man.
Thank you, thank you. I'm finally what Sham do? 16. I'm 16 years old finally. I'm really excited.
Every time we talk about Shamdu, I think he gets younger. So I like that. Okay, so I think a good way to kick this off, guys, and these kind of always evolve and take on a life of their own. But I think maybe before we dive into, and I've got a little list here of stuff I want to talk about, and I want to remind everybody who's listening that this is obviously not financial advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research. You've got fantastic people speaking up here today that you can follow on Twitter. Always, all of them each giving advice or updates on projects in their own respect. But I want to remind you guys that, we're just here to kind of chat about the stuff we like. We're here to chat about the stuff that we see in the community. And, everybody's got great success stories, especially these days, about NFTs that they picked up at a really great low price, but they saw some real potential in and now have been able to either benefit or just build a really juicy portfolio from those. So that's kind of where we want to focus that conversation. And again, anything we're talking about today, if you go out and you buy it and then it crashes the next day, that's on you. Okay, we're just here to, and it'll probably be, it's probably going to suck for us too, because I'll probably end up buying most of the stuff that we talk about today. So what I'd like to do is actually kind of go around, and probably a great place to start is actually to talk about perhaps what you guys, like, one or two characteristics that you guys look for when you are looking for those kind of lower cost NFTs, right? Everybody likes to ape into, spend 3, 4, 5, 20 ETH on a big time NFT. But I think all of you, including me, are often on the lookout for, like, okay, what's going for $500 right now? What's going for 0.2 ETH that I think one day might moon? What do you guys, give me one or two things that you guys look for when you are looking for those, sweet deals? Zeneca, I'm going to throw it over to you to start, man.
Yeah, so I like to look for projects that have been around for a while, that are like, they've been established. The team is there and building, and obviously hasn't rug pulled. Community is kind of strong, but for whatever reason, the floor just never took off. Or even better, project where the floor took off, it hit like 1 ETH or something, and then crashed back down during a bear market. And then especially during like the current bull market, or any bull market, if other projects are pumping, it's very often the case that if you find these projects that, like, are on paper great, have had a high floor price before, but haven't like pumped yet this cycle, I think those can be some of the best buys you can find.
So you're looking. So I want to go back to that first point you made. So you're looking at stuff that maybe has hit like a high of like around 1 ETH, but has come back down. Can that not be a flag too, though, that maybe it like crashed and burned?
Yeah, it can be. It's not necessarily projects that hit a higher floor and then came back down. It's also projects that just sort of have been stagnating and never really got off the ground. But like, the next thing I really look at is like unique ownership percentage. So, there are projects that have a really high unique ownership, and you can just look at the activity page and see that like every day there's 5, 10, 20 people buying into the project, and like steadily the unique owners are going up, but maybe the floor price isn't really pumping because there hasn't been explosive action. That's like sort of an accumulation phase signal to me, and that means that the community is strong, people are interested in the project, there's buying pressure, and eventually, like, there'll be supply shock when there's not enough people wanting to sell, and that's when I think, can see explosive gains.
Okay, I like that. Do you have? I'm gonna throw a trap or surprise question at you, and everybody else think about this ahead. Do you have an example specifically of anything in the last like 6 or 8 months that you have picked up kind of under those criteria that has since crossed that 1 ETH threshold?
Yeah, I mean, I think Boss Beauties is like just a front of mind example. It's at like, I think it got up to like 0.45 at one point, and then during the bear market, like November, December, it crashed to 0.15, and it just sort of kind of hovered between 0.15, 0.2 for ages. But the team was there; they were building, delivering. They made that partnership with Marvel. That's sort of what rocketed it to, I think, 0.4, 0.5, and then it like came crashing back down, and it's like nothing's really changed. It's still a great project. So yeah, people were accumulating, and then it's like popped off now. The floor's, I think, 1.6 ish. Yeah, that's sort of like a prime example. I can name more, but we'll stick with that one.
Just stick with that, yeah, man. That's so, those partnerships I find are so hard to kind of get a sense of who's planning what, right? Because something like a partnership with Marvel, like, that is freaking huge, but it's so
that's
hard.
Enormous.
Perhaps I mean, would you say it's pretty hard to anticipate who's going to be able to lock that down, because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes of these projects?
That's true, but I think with Boss Beauty specifically, there were some like signs. It wasn't a total surprise because, I mean, on their website, like when I first found out about the project, you read about the team. They talk about how they've had a previous successful company, My Social Canvas, which they've been running for 10 years, and had partnered with Target and Verizon, and so like they were business savvy, and they were they had already connected with the New York Stock Exchange and were going to hang Boss Beauties in their art halls. So it's like this was a team that already had these connections. So it wasn't totally out of left field, but it was still like a shock. Like Marvel is such a huge partnership.
That's
Yeah, I
Disney,
think
man.
anyone
That's
that drops
you're
it is,
partnering with Disney there.
yeah, it's
That's massive.
ludicrous.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Okay. Thanks, Zeneca. We'll come back in a bit. CT, probably some similar criteria, but I know you analyze. You're very analytical. Give us what you're looking for in those low cost projects.
So for me, I definitely think that some things, like Zeneca said, you can take a look at metrics and some more quantitative things. But on the more like non-quant side, I also kind of look at the team strength and communication strength. So that includes like having a really powerful community, and that includes in real life activations. It's for me personally a bonus because it shows that you're kind of invested in like quality activations, and bringing the collectors together in real life just strengthens it more. And I think like communication strength and consistency of communication is huge for me, about what they're working on and what they're doing to move forward. So yeah, even on projects under zero point 0.3, that's what I would say is great for me.
Have we seen a lot of projects under point 0.3 throw real life events, or do
Yeah, I
they
mean,
promise that a lot?
so part of that, I mean, I can give an example. Part of that is like House of Kiba, right? They had an activation in New York that was pretty amazing, and something you can look at, right, is their Genesis token is obviously very valuable. I think it's about 3 ETH right now. But something like the Gen X, which is they've said is kind of their secondary level of membership, I think it's at like 0.08 right now. And there's been some news about that being developed further as well. So those are the things I look for, are projects that are sometimes attached to uh, more successful versions of the project. And it shows that the team is kind of thinking out beyond the Genesis. And it could be something like, when Pixel Vault introduced other things other than just Punk's Comic 1, it kind of cascaded down, and now there's a lot of different valuable tokens within that ecosystem. So that's one thing that came to mind.
Mm-hmm. So like almost like, yeah, I like that. That's such a really good point about looking for like that second tier of membership. Actually, is even something to
Yeah.
consider in this conversation, right? Of just like if there's a good proven track record, the team is building something great, and they've recently opened like a secondary token to allow more people in, which is obviously really popular these days. Then that's something to kind of scope out for if there's a great track record. And I assume that the House of Kiba Gen Zero is on your list.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely on my list.
Yeah, okay, throw on mine as well. Okay, that's great. Phil D, recently excited again about Top Shot. He's back in. What are you looking for, Phil D, as as the suburban dad NFT investor, also hype man? What do you look for when you're looking for some of these lower cost projects?
I don't know, man. Like for me, I go by instinct more than anything else. And I've told you this before. I look at so many different things, and I think my approach is a lot different than a lot of people, in the sense that it's been a year now since I've been into NFTs. I think it's almost exactly a year that I listened to the episode of the first mint and finally got into NBA Top Shot after you apparently telling me months ahead of time, which is debatable if that happened or not. But it's a year later, and I still don't feel educated enough and comfortable enough on a lot of platforms. Like, it's weird. I don't know how to explain it. And I know I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people that I speak to on a regular basis. Some projects they just don't even bother looking at because they don't understand, okay, I understand the gas part of it. I understand all that stuff. But some people don't want to deal with it. And I'm not saying I don't want to deal with it, because I finally started to. Before my MetaMask got locked out and that whole fiasco, I had started to actually really get into a lot of projects where I was minting stuff, and I was really using it. But everyone knows my comfort zone is more outside of that and more in the flow ecosystem. So that's typically where I lean to first, and I find it so much easier. And I find it so much easier to onboard new NFT users or NFT collectors through that ecosystem, just because you avoid the whole gas fees and all that stuff, right? Which is really hard to understand for a lot of people. And then some people just don't understand why they have to pay something like that. So I think I educated myself enough to understand it. But, again, like I said, after I had that issue, I kind of gave up on it for a little bit and still trying to figure that out. But yeah, for me, I go on instinct all the time. I also love projects that have nobody interested in them pretty much. That's what's really attractive to me, is when they're super green and a great example. And I'm not saying I'm the one who discovered this, but I hadn't even heard it. Is the Flunks project. Like I saw I saw Roham tweeting, and Roham tweets a lot of stuff. Doesn't always mean, I'll be interested, but I saw this and I kind of read up on it. I read what they had and it wasn't much. And I'm like, yo, this is a cool concept. This is really cool. But it turns out that if you went in their Discord at the time, I can tell you right now, those devs were not expecting the masses to show up right now at all. Right? Like we kind of stormed that thing and they're like, it's kind of like when, a play or something doesn't open their doors until an hour before, but someone's sitting in the audience 3 hours before. You know what I'm saying? And then the actors are like rehearsing. They're like, oh God, who are these people sitting here already? Right? So, but that's what I look for. I kind of look for stuff that's really, really green. I like to be first. I like to be around when it's really early, and it has to excite me no matter what. It can't just be something that doesn't excite me. That's what I look for.
Can you expand on what excites you? And this is, I just caveat, this is specifically your taste, but I think you're definitely
Right.
kind of building a relation or a reputation as like a tastemaker, let's say, especially in our
Right.
circles. So what specifically was something like Flunks or which again barely even has a roadmap or even a plan
That's
to
right.
drop or anything. You're already stoked about it. You were stoked about things like Ballers early. From the second you saw Genies, you were excited. What specifically, like, how do you gauge vibe and your taste and kind of align that with something you want to invest in?
It's funny you ask that, because if you go all the way back to last year when I was asking you what these punks are and stuff like that, I don't know if you remember, I kept telling you the art is so garbage. Why do people want this crap? I'm like, why are people paying so much for some garbage art? But then here I am, I see these flunks and these ballers, and all of a sudden for me now, it looks like the most beautiful thing on the planet. And I don't know how to explain it, right? But like I've done a full 180 when it comes to that stuff. Because I used to say the punks are so ugly. I'm like, what is that garbage? But it's about more than that. And it's kind of like, I'll refer to it now because it's the most recent. But the Flunks one, what got me was it reminded me, I've said forever and ever and ever that I wish I could have 1 week back in high school. I don't want to spend a whole year in high school. I don't want to do any of the work. I don't want to do any of the schoolwork. I don't want to do any of the tests, none of that stuff. But I'd love to spend a week back in high school and just experience that all over again. And this kind of had a little bit of an aspect of that, not just the way they had set up their Discord, but just the whole idea behind it being bad kids. I saw one giving a middle finger. I saw a bunch of them, the whole idea of skipping class, getting in trouble, all that. It's appealing to me. And, the art back in the day, I would say is complete trash. But now, again, I told you, I love it. To some other people, it's trash. But, I think it's great. And then I think the ability to build a community off a project for me is huge. Like the community aspect. You ask anybody involved with Ballers right now, yeah, they love their ballers and all that, but the community, if you ask them on a percentage ratio of what percentage that is, like everyone feels like a kid again. I'm not saying everybody's old, but for most people, this is the most sense of community they've had in the longest time in their adult lives outside of their group of friends and all that. Like this is a whole other planet, and the ballers community is like that, right? So the ability for a project to build the community to the point where community members are the ones kind of doing a lot of the legwork and putting a lot of stuff together, it's incredible. So for me, it's very attractive, and it's not everything. I mean, I don't get attracted to everything. I told you the other day, I fall in love at first sight, and that's what happens with these projects, right? And when I know, it's not like I sit there saying, oh, cool. Maybe we should really go crazy about this one. So yeah, man, for me, it's all instinct, pure instinct.
Yeah, it's all gut. It's all gut.
Well, obviously pricing too, right? Like you said, for me, obviously it's nice when it's early. I'd love to be an ape owner, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So
hey, you never know, man. Zeneca was just talking about projects going boom or bust. You never know. Anything can happen in crypto. That's kind of the spicy part, right? So, but no, I don't think that would happen to apes. Quad, always on the lookout. Always, any project. I've always like it's always it's like a feather on my cap if I can tell Quad about a good project that he doesn't know about yet. Um, how do you spot those, Quad?
Well, first off, Phil, you don't have an ape because LG fudded apes about 2 days ago, saying that it so
So hold
that's
on. What are you
What?
saying, Quad? I should have spoke to you instead.
Yes.
of course, of
But hold
course.
on.
Yes, you should have.
I don't want to. I've already spoken enough. I just want to say one thing. I'm always going to go back to yes, maybe, but I would have had no clue how to mint an ape. Even if he had said yes, we should get these. I wouldn't have had the single clue how any of that works because I was uneducated
I
about
would
all
have
of that.
helped you. I would have helped you. It's whatever. It's
All
don't
right.
listen. You can be an expert and be wrong all the time. Okay,
Yep.
because you know what? In
Absolutely.
NFTs, there are no experts. Nobody's doing this a year ago. Okay, so just everybody take a fucking breather, Quad. Quad, how do you find these great? You're always in these great projects pretty early. What are you looking for?
So I think that one thing about this space is people are so damn impatient. But if you have
Mm,
patience, you can take advantage of that. And I'll call out a couple projects in the past that just having patience and identifying that a team is building something that's bigger than just something that can be spit out in a week or two, right? It's not um, a Fiverr art profile picture or something like that. Whether it's, so I'll use the example BYO Pills is building out a game. And, actually, LG, I'll give you some credit here. You messaged me one night and said, hey, man, I think I'm going to sweep the pill floor. And you bought 3 or 4 pills when they were at 0.05, and
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
because the team there has done nothing but deliver value, but it's slow, right? They're building
mm-hmm.
a game and a metaverse, and so you just have to, I think you can identify some projects that have really good long-term potential and take advantage of people's impatience. Like, why, sometimes I take a look at these floors, and Jenkins is another one. LG, dude, you got to give yourself more
Mm-hmm.
credit. You messaged me about Jenkins
Hold
too.
on, Quad. You started this by saying that I fudded apes like the second
Well, you
day, and
did.
now you're
You
trying to
did.
give me a bunch of credit, man. Like make up your fucking mind,
Well,
okay?
hey, this space changes really, really quick, LG. But
God.
Jenkins was another one where everything was on the long term horizon. There was nothing to do with Jenkins today or tomorrow. Back when the Jenkins floor was 0.025, 0.03. And so identifying good teams, and I love what Corporate Trash says about good communicators. I don't want a Discord that pings me 10 times a day to tell me about some newest thing that they're doing that probably isn't going to give me value. I want a team that gives me the updates that I need, that shows that they're working, but nothing more. So Trash saying that good communication, I think that's really key. But also just a team that is building for the long term and just realizing whether a project is something a little bit more in depth than a profile picture. It's going to take a little longer. So take advantage of other people's impatience if you identify a project that you believe long term is just going to knock it out of the park.
That's and those two examples you gave, Quad. I'll kind of give a bit of background there, and this will maybe help inform on like some other projects we're looking at now, especially something like House of Kiba is a really good example where those were two projects, both Jenkins and Pills, that people were really excited about when they came out. They sold out. It was a gas war. It was pure chaos. People, especially for Pills, people were trading the rarities, but then the promise of the vision was, it wasn't faint, but it was long and it was broad. Where Jenkins was like, we're going to write a book together, and I remember joining the Discord like the day after the drop, and they were like, all right, here's a channel, throw out some authors you want to see, and I was like, oh god, like they're still at this point where they're like asking people, and people are like naming the most random, like Dean Koontz and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, like this, it's going to be a while. But I still really believed in what they were doing. Um, and pills is the same thing where they're like, listen, these pills are going to unlock like these crazy ass trippy experiences, but that also is not something you build overnight. So both of those, about a month or two after drop, I thought they both had potential and saw that the traction was low at the time, but probably a lot like what Zeneca was saying. I noticed there was a slow uptick of the diversity of owners, and a lot of people who had managed to win in the gas war had kind of unloaded, and now the sales were mainly of people that at that point, you got to be genuinely interested in the project with those when they're kind of really slow. So that's kind of what I identified, and I'll bring that back to the point that what I wanted to say is my own answer to my own question is design. And Phil's talking about trash art, all that kind of stuff. Specifically for me, and I do love the ballers and the punks, and I love the simplicity of those projects, and love a lot of the art that we're seeing even in the PFPs today. And no, I'm not harping on anybody's PFPs. What I'm saying is that with those two projects specifically, I've become a really big sucker for really polished 3D graphics and 3D art. And the pills for me, when I was making that decision to spend like whatever it was, like an ETH or something like that, sweeping those, I was like, these look really fucking cool. And the team has clearly put in a lot of effort. This is clearly a professional team that's done these. It's not a $5 Fiverr project. I was like, this is clearly somebody who's got their shit together that made this design. And I trust the next iteration of that. And even Jenkins is a good example where I already kind of knew the team, so I knew the team was going to be great. But even just the tickets and the boats and like the yacht and the keys and stuff, I was like, this is well done. This is polished, and that's before making any money. That's before the sale that they made these. And that's something that I keep an eye out for now, is some of those dormant projects where the first iteration was just beautiful and kind of speaks to the professional polish that the team is probably going to want to bring in their next wave of NFTs or projects or whatever it is that they're doing. So that's kind of my answer to that question. With that, I want to jump into, I'd love to literally just go around one at a time. This is the actual shill part where we all get to say a project that we love and give that alpha. So let's keep going in the circle, man. I want to hear specifically a project that you think is a real spicy one that either you own or you're thinking about owning. Zeneca, we'll bring it all the way back to you.
I mean, there's a bunch. I'm gonna shout out ETH Aliens. I think it's a probably a project not a lot of people have heard about. It minted out, I want to say like 4 months ago, a while back at really low mint price. I think it was like 0.025, and they didn't get a ton of traction. Like, yeah, they had a few bursts when people came in and swept the floor, especially immediately. They launched in when was it? I'm looking at it now, early October. But then the floor dropped, way down to 0.01, I think, 0.02, and just sat there for ages. But the team's been building. The community is killer. They have like a lot of fun community engagement things happening in the Discord, elaborate bots, and that they come up with like an off-chain currency, and they're coming out with like voxel art in I think in a few weeks.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I'm just looking for it now. So it's ETH Aliens NFT is the handle, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna pin one of their tweets so everybody can find it.
Yeah, ETH Aliens NFT.
Okay, ETH Aliens NFT. Here we go. I just pinned one. I like even the one I pinned, the art in it. The alien is wearing a shirt that says "Comet me, bro."
Yeah, it's just a fun project, but like the voxel art is really awesome, and so I mean that's another drop that they're coming up with. But yeah, I think it's worth checking out. It's like well under the $1,000 mark. It's I think it falls like 0.06 or 0.07 at the moment. Yeah, so I'll just make that my first one.
Are they on mainnet?
Yes.
Okay. Any I'm not sure how to kind of dissect these. Rest of the panel, any questions you want to throw at Zeneca about this project? Consider it something I've never heard of. Is there what's actually here's a great exercise. What is, if somebody like Zeneca is telling you guys like CT Phil or Quad, and he's like, all right, ETH Aliens NFT, that's what I like. What is your first question to kind of evaluate it yourself?
For me, I would look at the sales history first to see if there's sort of like what was the highest they reached and when, and then before I would buy, I would go into their Discord to kind of see what's going on there as well. Could kind of see if it's like in the communication style that I'm looking for, if that makes sense. And obviously, I look at the art too. I've never heard of them before, so I got to check them out.
No, I'm CT. I'm talking about a scenario where it's like you're walking down the street, you bump into Zeneca, and he's like, "Yo, ETH Aliens NFT, check it out." You have no phone or anything. You have to ask him a question about it. What are you asking him?
Oh, I gotta ask him a question. I'd say
Yeah,
how
ask him a
many do you?
question.
I'd say how many do you have?
Oh, good one.
It's a good question. I think I have like five. I need to get more.
I thought you were going to say 500.
Yeah, no. I mean, I missed the mint, and then yeah, I picked some up a few weeks ago. But there's so many cool projects. I need to. I just need to stock up on, on more of them. I'm sure I'm gonna get a nice list from everyone tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Right on. Okay, we got the first pick. CT, over to you. What's a project on the list?
So I think on my list, I'm going along with the same theme as I talked about before, sort of the second tier project, and that would be something from the Pain Gang collection from Ghosts. So Ghosts is a collection that have of hand drawn art that the artist Gong Yang launched last May, I think, and they're really beautiful. They originally cost like 0.001 ETH each, but now I think they're around 100 ETH is the sales price. But you can still get in the Ghosts community and collection by buying a work from the Pain Gang collection, and it's PXINGXNG because ghosts spell things with the X's and the vowels. But I always keep a look at this and I see right now there's like, for example, there's the Christmas ones are the lowest floors in here because, it's not Christmas anymore. So I understand that. But oftentimes, the Ghosts uses different collection to do, raffles or airdrops or qualifications to other things. I myself have been kind of collecting up the muses. There's a couple different muses. The no utility muse used to be 0.25, but now it's up over that 0.3. And, I don't know. I just feel like with them being a Coinbase NFT, featured NFT, their town halls are always great and full of amazing communication. Their in real life event in New York was incredible. And this community is just so super tight. Like from day one, the community is called like the Pain Gang. And I just feel like it's really unique in the space. And it's something to monitor. If these things drop and people are looking for liquidity, it would be a great thing to get a couple of these pieces.
Is this? Did I pin it right? Is this one with the salt shaker?
Yeah, they don't really use that Twitter account anymore.
Okay. Which one's the right Twitter account?
You could use just the Ghosts one. It's I think it's at GHXSTS.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just pin that.
And there's multiple collections that are in this, but Pain Gang is the most affordable collection. And yeah, it would just be. This is one of those things too where I feel like kind of just buy it and hold and wait. I feel like if you're in the community and talking in their Discord, you're going to get the most out of this. You're going to start to understand the world that this artist has put together. And there's also a Ghost comic that's coming soon. It looks really beautiful, the previews. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Phil D, you're walking down the street, you bump into CT, and she's like, "Yo, you got to get this Pain Gang thing." What do you ask? What's the first question you're asking her?
I think, like I said, I was going to ask Zeneca the same thing, and I don't know enough of the background for you to maybe tell me. And I have a funny story that goes along with this, and maybe I can get into that a bit too. But I'll stick with CT for now. CT, how do we know? I know you're into so many different projects, and I know you do really well, obviously, based on some of the ones I know you've been into. How do you ensure something's not a rug pull? I've always wondered that, and that's kind of one of the reasons, because I'm so green, with some of these projects, I've kind of stuck to the Flow ecosystem, things that are backed by Dapper Labs, kind of with the thinking that if a company like Dapper Labs was willing to put their power and their money behind a project, that it's almost surely not going to be a rug pull or something like that. But we've seen some pretty big ones, and even recently, there's been so much going on. I'm just catching up on it, and that's where I'm going to tell my story after. But how do you ensure, that you're not getting into some kind of rug pull when you get into these things?
I totally understand that. That's why I also love Flow NFTs. But the long story short is you really don't. And that's kind of why when I'm talking about the topic today, I'm like Zeneca, I'm talking about more established projects, right? The Ghost has been around, since last May. They've done in real life launches. They are part of the Coinbase NFT launch as well. I've been paying attention to their town halls and all their communications, and the artist is very communicative and really brings the community together. So that's kind of why I feel like if I had zero point 0.3 ETH and I was telling someone, to buy an NFT, it's just as kind of a more risk averse person in the space. Like that's why I would put it there. I would rather put it there than minting or trying to get in a whitelist for some of just it's so noisy right now. That's the challenge, right? The stuff that's coming out right now, it's especially with the whitelist stuff. I could get into that for hours, but it's a lot to deal with. So I would recommend going into a more established NFT.
Mm. It's a really good point about like whitelists and or pre-sale lists as they are now too. It's just like the idea that it might be a lot of sunk cost for something that's you're not sure unless you're really stoked about it. But trying to get those whitelists can be so challenging. Whereas, like you're saying, spending your money in places where you're like, well, this is established, so I have a good feeling about it. Might be a better use of your time and money.
Well, there's that, and also, sorry, really quickly, with the Ghost community, they've been around since May. A lot of them have, right? So, and they're pretty welcoming. So when you join that community and you are like saying, "Hey, I got my first piece," and you hang around that community, you might learn things that are coming up and start to really connect the dots about that as well. So I'm trying to look at it from more of like a beginner's perspective. It's like 2 for 1. You're getting this great NFT, but you're also joining this community, and I really do feel like you can't just buy an NFT and chill and wait. You have to participate, or else it's just not really going to end up too well for you.
Oh, Phil keeps getting booted, but he's got a Zeneca story or something like that he wants to share. So I'm just going to give him the floor once he gets back up here. Phil, you there?
I'm there. Can you hear me? I don't know what the hell I did, and I don't know where you guys were at, but let me know when I can. Let me know when I can just jump in here.
We're ready for your story.
So
yeah, we're ready for your story. CT gave a great answer to
I heard that. I was there. I just got booted after I was about to speak, and I think I hit the close button. But Zeneca, you're going to be interested in this because this is a true story, and in a world of crazy coincidences, I don't even know how this came up. So I don't know who started the thread. I think it was someone by the name of Blake on Twitter yesterday, or maybe the day before.
Blake Jameson.
That's who it was. Yes. So asking for
the artist behind Knights of
what
Degen,
are the biggest rug pulls of all time, or something like that. And then I was going through the list. I'm like, I haven't heard of this one. I haven't heard of this one. But I always like I don't know, I have this attraction to seeing, like, whenever somebody posts a link, like a Twitter page for someone that I always go there and I just want to see how these people, like, I'll go to the Twitter page of the rug pull and I'll be like, man, they had like 50,000 followers. Like, this is crazy. It's not, I always expect to see like maybe a couple thousand, but I'm like, this thing was so established and then they rug pulled. I find it fascinating, and I always love to look at them. Then I think I ran into about the 15th comment on that thread, and it was talking about those, remember those eggs with all, like, those kind of eggs that had maybe punks in them? And
Apamon.
Yes.
Apamon eggs.
So I'm like, oh, shit. You know what? I remember LG bought some of those. I remember everyone we knew bought some of those eggs. Are you telling me that was a rug pull? It can't be the same thing. So I went to Google, and if you write Apamon rug, that's all you have to write on Google search. The very first thing that comes up is an article about the Apamon rug job. So I got into the article, read the whole thing. Then last night I messaged LG. I'm like, those egg things, did they get rug pulled? And he's like, yeah, man, he's like, how are you even, like, what made you read about that? So I told
so long ago.
So I had no idea. I had seen those. I'm like, shit. I debated getting one, and I'm like, nah, forget it. It's too much for me. I don't even understand how this works. And I think they cost a bit much at the beginning, and for me, it was out of my range. So, but anyways, I was fascinated that I had not heard of this 8 months later. So I found this article, read the entire article, and then I sent to LG a message. I go, those things got rugged. He's like, yeah, man, where the hell you been? Why'd you start reading about this? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, send me the article. So I go and I find the link for the article, and do I not see who wrote the article? And I'm like, Zeneca. Isn't that the guy coming on the show tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, man. I'm like, holy shit. What are the odds of that? Like, I don't know Zeneca too well. I've heard the name, but I had no idea Zeneca wrote the article. So, small world, very crazy coincidence, very well-written article for sure. If anybody wants to read that, it was very detailed as to how they pulled that off. And, yeah, no, it gave some great insight. So kudos to you, Zeneca, for that article, man. That was good stuff.
Yeah, that's such a wild coincidence. Like, I honestly haven't even heard the name Apimon for a long time. It was, I don't know, it was like May last year or something, maybe June, maybe even earlier. Um, yeah, it was honestly one of the first real NFT project rug pulls that I can recall. Like, there weren't that many projects at the time, and this one was hyped. Everyone was talking about it. Like, if you were in the space, you knew all the projects basically. It wasn't like it is now. Yeah, and then that day I remember. I mean, there were a lot of red flags. A lot of people were saying, "Hey, this is not right." I wasn't paying close enough attention to it. I had a few eggs, but I was just sort of like, you know, I guess hoping that I won a punk or that the eggs went up in value or whatever. And then, I popped into the Discord one day and, people were talking about how it's a rug pull and the founder left and all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I just started, piecing that info together and wrote that article.
Yeah, what a coincidence, man! It really was. I couldn't believe it because I had to go back and look at LG's tweet on the first mint about who's coming on the show, and I'm like, I think it's the same name, and I'm like, oh man, how's this even possible? But I can't believe those things got rugged, man. Like, what the hell? That is crazy. That thing was like so elaborate, and the whole thing seems so like amazing. That I was always like, I hope I have enough funds to one day get into these things and kind of get this loot bag type of egg that could have anything inside, right? And I thought that would be the future of how things work. But man, what a disaster.
Yeah, I stayed away from egg projects for a long time afterwards because it was traumatizing for me.
Oh, you were
It
into
was so
that too, CT?
traumatizing. Oh man, we were deep into that. I bought a
Oh,
lot of them, and then basically what happened was when they released the info about like which eggs had the prizes in them, I was like, oh, okay, that was my first rug pull for sure.
oh man.
Everybody remembers their first rug pull for sure, and that was a pretty big one. And Zeneca, like you said, there were not a lot of projects at the time. That's the thing where it's like back then it was like there was one or two projects a week that came out. I feel, and that was I feel like at one point we got pretty keen to kind of mint anything. Um, so that kind of fell into that, but yeah, definitely a mismanaged project. Uh, Quad, what's on your list?
Well, first off, thank you, CT, for bringing up some PTSD. I originally bought two ghosts from Gong Yang for that
Oh,
0.001. So that's cool. I don't own those anymore. Uh, sold them for I think maybe 0.35. Really good flip at the time.
but Quad, you did buy them for under $1,000, and that's the topic today. It's not how much you sold for.
I did.
It's did you buy something under $1,000 that went above it at some point later?
It did. But yeah, that was not great. But to redeem myself, I made money on APMon, so I don't know what you guys are talking about. So back then, like you said, like I started in this space with like $2,000, right? And I was in flip everything mode to get more like money, right? To be able to invest in more things. So that's why I flipped ghosts and flipped Zed horses, and I was in flip mode. So like I minted my eggs, and then when they ran up, on those stupid bonding curves, I dumped them and I made money. And so, hey, sometimes being a flipper only back then helped. Because I wasn't at I didn't have the luxury of holding things to figure out if they're going to go crazy high or not, right? Like I was taking my flips, and so, but I am going to, before anybody else steals this,
Uh-oh, here we go.
before anybody else steals this one, I am going to go with an opportunity to buy into an already proven blue chip project at still an entry point that is under $1,000. And some of you may know where I'm going, but I'm going Pixel Vault. So there are currently 3 pieces of the Pixel Vault ecosystem that are under $1,000. It's comic number 2, which last I checked was somewhere around 0.2. The ape token, which is the elite ape entry token, and that is around 0.16, 0.15. And then planets. There are planets, which essentially gives you a share of each planetary DAO. And then also you'll be able to get a mint pass for a sidekick in the snapshot that I think is probably around a month from now. So those are 3 assets that you can decide different ways to play this. So the first way would be the comic number 2. Now, I remember in the town hall about comic number 2 that they had potentially hinted at some burning utility in the future, but then the drop went so terribly because essentially all of the previous Pixel Vault founders, DAO holders, just minted it out before it got out on the market. They were like, oh, we didn't know that there would be this demand for something that has no utility and is just a collectible. So take that with a grain of salt, whether you think comic number 2 is going to get future utility. But if you held a comic number 2 only, you would have gotten to mint an elite ape token. So there's some utility right there, worth at least 0.15. Now, the second one is the Elite Ape entry token. The geez, that is a mouthful. Elite Ape entry token, it was given to everybody that either has a Bored Ape. You got to mint 2. You got to mint 1 if you had anything from the Pixel Vault collection, and then you got to mint 3 if you had a core or a full planetary set or a full Pixel Vault set. And so the comic number 2, there are 8 special edition comics, one for each of the 8 elite apes that won the community vote to be included in comic number 2. So if the floor of comic number 2, which has a supply of 20,000, is 0.2, each of these elite ape is a edition size of 750. So you can just imagine that based on those numbers, the floor of the Elite Ape comic is going to be much higher, and this gets you an entry into that drawing. But it also will have future utility. They have said it will have future utility. They said it will go along the lines of the gamification that you know so well out of Punk's comic, which means it's going to be a burn for this or keep for this type situation you're going to have to make. And full disclosure, I've bought like 15 of these on the secondary. So I'm very, very bullish on the entry price of 0.15 for the Elite Ape token. And then the third one is the planet. You can get some of the planets right now for around 0.22 to 0.25. I would recommend going after the planets that just recently had a giveaway because if that planet was given away, people could be trying to sell it because it's just pure profit. If somebody's trying to sell for 0.22 something they just got for free, that is a free $600, $700 that maybe they want to deploy into something different. And so you can get those planets. You'll be able to then claim the mint passes in about a month for the sidekicks, which in the future will have some staking abilities to earn POW token at a much lesser rate than the current meta heroes. But that will also get you that mint pass in the future that is not going to be free. It's going to sell on the secondary. I could not tell you what it's going to sell for because there's going to be a lot of them, but you're already locking yourself in a guaranteed future value claim, and it can just go from there.
I think you thought about this quite a bit, Quad.
Yeah, I definitely have. I'm very big into
I'm just teasing you, man.
the meta heroes.
No, I agree with you, man. I think about the Pixel Vault project quite a lot as well. So, and I agree that they've done a great job growing their ecosystem and providing value, but also, it's so important to provide those entry points, right? Like how many of the other, kind of top projects, quote unquote, blue chip projects have multiple entry points currently at those levels, right? And this is, I fashion that similar to kind of what CT was saying about different collections within the Ghost ecosystem. It's like this is like that, where it's like there's good community, it's proven, the team ain't gonna rug, and you still have an entry point that could turn into something bigger later. Zeneca, if you're walking down the street, you bump into Quad, and he gives you that whole spiel. What's your first and only question for him?
First and only question. I mean, I'm
And
already
you've never
down
heard of the
pixel
project. Just
volume
pretend you
because
don't even know what he's talking about.
it's tough to put myself in those shoes. Um, I'm just going to default to the question of how many do you own? Because it is a good question to know how much conviction someone has in a project and how invested they are.
I'd say like how much do they own, and also what was their cost entry point for what they have? Because
Yeah,
that's a big difference to have bought stuff early and now it's huge versus like buying stuff at full price currently.
yeah. I mean, I guess sort of maybe a different question would be, um, what's their plan? I guess like what's your plan? Is this a long term investment? Is this a medium term, short term? Where do you foresee the value coming from and when and that kind of stuff. But again, it's I already know Pixel Vault a lot, so it's difficult for me to just know what I don't know.
Do I get to answer? Can I answer? Like
Yeah,
as in
what's your plan? Not
that?
Pixel Vault's plan, your plan.
Yes, my plan. So my plan is to hold very long term. And here's a couple of reasons for that. A, the staking allows you to take profits along the way while still holding the Genesis items, right? You can sell off some of the tokens if you would like to take some profits, which I think is always important. But B, I love Call of Duty, right, which is a first person shooter. I love that type of game. And I also love grinding for camos and achievements and different things like that, right? So I believe that if punks and meta heroes, if the meta heroes game can become a first person shooter like Overwatch, which is what they said that their like inspiration is, if they can be successful in that, owning one of the original characters and pieces to that game can be rewarded greatly. And so I am a long term holder. I hold different pieces of all of the different, pieces of it, from a comic to a founder's DAO to a moon token, and have bought a comic on secondary for 7 ETH. So there's the answer to your questions about entries and how much I have and why I believe in it long term.
There you go. There you go. I'm going to go next. An oldie but a goodie, and something based on, again, the things I said. Design. Always been a sucker for design, and another project that was very early in our whole and NFT journey post our initial Top Shot boom. These guys have been on the show. I hold a few of them. I pay attention. They're building. They've airdropped many different like Decentraland wearables and Polygon items to me and other holders. Their plan from the very onset was to garden the metaverse. And they were one of the first projects I remember actively talking from the start about doing something like that to the metaverse. The old bonsai trees, if you guys recall, they're working on something called Forest Spirits, which there's not too many details. And I've asked the team, I've asked Ancient Gardener about the Forest Spirits, and there's not too many details. But again, I'm a sucker for design. BYOPills is a really great example of that, where it's like, these are really sick. What are they going to do later? And now BYOPills has turned into this whole other ecosystem of land and all this other stuff. Again, these guys, very simple mission: garden the metaverse, Zen NFT, probably some of the wackiest guests we've ever had come on. If anybody remembers that episode of the First Mint Live where they came on with like a what do you call that? Like a voice, like an auto tune voice thing. That then the guy was like singing about their project to me, and I just couldn't even listen because it was so jarring. But I think they do have a good team. The project has deflated in a sense, right? People don't talk about it very much. Still sitting around, I think, that point one price point. But if you go look at the original bonsais, they're beautiful. They have a bunch of different traits. That's a project that I profited from very early. I remember Quad and I, we were minting those as they were going, when they were selling 8,888 of them, and I got a couple rares. So that was some of my first bits of decent ETH liquidity that has benefited me, and I've used some of that over the months to kind of buy back in. So big fan of that. I don't spend an obscene amount of time in the Discord. I'll say that. I just kind of follow the updates, so I don't have like in-depth, juicy conversation. But what I can tell, they still have, months later, they have a community that is pretty engaged. And honestly, I just love the look of these. I think these are going to be really cool. And if they become avatars that we can use, hopefully in different metaverse projects, right? If we can use these in Decentraland and CryptoVoxels and Sandbox, and then all the better. But even just looking at them, I think that they look really cool. I don't think we've really seen anything on that caliber just yet in the NFT space. Do you guys have any questions for me? You're walking down the street. You want to ask me about the bonsais?
LG, how did they survive the First Mint live show? That's what I want to know. Because, like you said, they came on using. Okay, some people come on and they don't want to show their faces. They don't want to be on camera. That's fine. For a lot of people, that's a red flag, but that's fine. Okay, we were willing to live with that. But they didn't only come on and not show their faces. They came on and, like you said, used auto tune, like some psychotic auto tune, like voice changer that you do when you're like robbing, the National Bank, or like when you're trying to pull off some kind of crazy heist out of a movie, is what they were doing. And the funny thing is that when we were on the air, word came to us that their Discord was in full panic mode, thinking that this is a rug pull. So I'm glad to hear that they're still going, man, because I haven't heard of these things ever since, right? So, what's in their future plans, LG? That's what I would love to know. I mean, what are they doing? Are they releasing more stuff, or is it just the same bonsais going round and round and round?
So, like I said, they've airdropped some wearables to me.
Okay.
So, Phil, you remember when we went to the Paris Hilton concert together in Decentraland? I was wearing one of their robes, one of their really funky robes.
Is that what you were wearing?
Yes, it was from these guys. So they have been working away and giving people some cool stuff. They're also very keen. I believe that they're either they're developing like iOS apps, and I just pinned one of the tweets there that they literally want, like, even from the start, you've been able to kind of like take the project file and like, I guess, like project the bonsai into different places, like in your house and stuff, which is cool. And we saw that early on with that in like Zed Run. But I think that they've been building away on just like integrating both the spirits and the bonsais into like just whatever, the augmented reality or virtual reality or both of what the metaverse becomes. So I really like that. I think that they will hold some level of status as well as being like an OG project. And again, the art for me is the biggest sales point here.
Hey, LG, can I ask, does the water token play any factor of you keeping them, and why?
Yes, it does. So the water token, this is a great point. I totally forgot about the water token. So the water token is the longer you hold the trees, the original bonsais, the more water tokens you have. So I've claimed some water tokens. I actually provide liquidity in the water token, even though it's not doing incredibly well. And they haven't specified yet exactly what that water token will serve as, but it could be as a way to upgrade maybe your forest spirits, or to merge, to breed them, to access new NFTs. But I have been actively accumulating. I do know that the forest token or the water token, they recently, you can't trade it if you're in the US. That's something that kind of new that came down the line. So I hope that they're working on that. That's probably one of the only flags I could put up. But at the price point for this one, I'm always keen to buy a few more. So that's where one of my bets are. Wow. We're at the top of the hour. We have a lot to talk about. Zeneca, let's give us a couple, man, because I know you're a busy guy, but give us a couple of the other ones on your list, because I feel like everybody prepared a nice juicy list, and if we go at this rate, we'll be here for hours. So tell us what else you got.
All right, yeah. Let's see. MFers by Satoshi. I think it's just such a mimetic project, and Satoshi is so well established in the space, just an OG loved by other OGs. I think that this is his signature PFP project, and price, initially spiked. I can't remember what it got up to, 0.3, maybe 0.4, and then dropped way below, like down by 0.1 and under. I think it's at like 0.2 now. It seems like a good one. Nuclear Nerds, I think that's what it's called. I've been hearing a lot about it. I don't actually have any myself, but it's just like, tons of people say tons of good things about it. It's around 0.2. Top Dog Beach Club is one of my just personal favorites. It's just again another project that's been around for months, like 6 months maybe, and it just never quite took off. It got to a decent floor during the August bull run, but then came back down, and they
Wait,
worked
wait,
in building
slow
on.
down. Hold on, wait. I'm still on nuclear nerds. Hold on. I'm just trying to find the right tweet. So what? So
Yeah,
nuclear nerds, you don't own any, but you're keen to
no, I don't
learn
actually.
more. Is that kind of what you're looking at?
Yeah, honestly, I have a list of like 8 projects where it's like I need to sweep these floors. I just haven't done it yet. Nuclear Nerds is on that list.
So okay, so hold on. That's actually a great question that I want to ask you. Is like, so you're at this point where you're like, all right, here's a list of stuff, and your intent is to sweep the floors. Are you planning to learn more about the projects, or are you going kind of on the Phil D tip here of like going on gut and like a community vibe?
In this case, it's basically gut and community. It's just like I've heard other smart people talk favorably about it, and it's sort of like,
Hmm.
yeah, when smart people agree on something, you listen. It's like it's why we believe scientists. It's
Hmm.
like we don't know the science, but yeah, basically that sort of logic. So that plus just a gut feeling of art's cool, it's kind of different, and I hear good things. So, yeah, like there's just so many projects out there now. I don't necessarily have the time to research them all in a ton of depth. So, some I will, but some I just buy on gut and trusting
Hmm.
others.
When you sweep Zeneca, what does that entail? Like a wow to what? How many are you sweeping? Like if after this you're like, all right, it's time for nuclear nerds. How many are you buying, and how do you identify which ones you're grabbing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just basically just buy the floor. I don't look at for rares or into trades.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of how many, it's kind of just a gut feeling again. It'll be like just how confident and bullish I am, based on very little. But like, yeah, it'll usually be minimum of like 3, usually like 5, and then up to like 10 to 20 if it's just. It also depends on the price point. Like it's very different sweeping something at 0.04, and we can get like 20, 30, 40 of them for not too crazy of a price versus something at zero point 0.2, and you start getting 40 of those, and that's 8 ETH. So yeah, it varies. Let's say between 3 and 30.
Damn, dude, that's some conviction. What was the third one? So we got MF first by Sartoshi. Actually, Zeneca, just for people who might not know, who is Sartoshi, and what is that project?
Yeah, he's an artist he's like a crypto artist, and he's been creating like he creates memes basically, like these fun
Yeah.
little comic strips and like commentary on the space and stuff like that. And um, yeah, he's just like a fun. I've never actually interacted with him, but seems like a fun human with like a smart human, and he's just he has insights into the space and doesn't take it too seriously and creates these memes. And we I think by now we all know that we shouldn't underestimate the power of memes. And so yeah, he dropped this 10K collection based on one of the characters he draws, and that's what MF is.
Sweet. So that's kind of like that's actually really interesting because we're talking we've talked in the past a lot about like creator economy, right? And obviously
Mm-hmm.
that typically gravitate more towards artists. Um, and but now obviously we're seeing people like First Minute and even people like you Zeneca, right? Like selling membership to the Zen Academy. People really able to leverage their influence and their followers and their audience and turn that into a community with shared value. Um, but this is unique. Sartoshi, as far as I understand, it's like following them. It's like that's just like they're literally just a meme lord, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fantastic. And it's like for years now, you can be a meme lord on Reddit and accumulate an obscene amount of karma, and that's it. Your karma ain't worth shit. But now anybody who loves those memes has bought an MFer and can invest.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
amazing.
that is unique.
Yeah, it's the
You
power
know,
of Web3. It's amazing.
yeah. The meme makers can finally make some cash. Okay, and what was the third one, Zeneca, you had on that list?
Third one was Top Dog Beach Club. It
Top
launched,
dog.
I want to say, like halfway through last year, maybe June, maybe July, August. I really don't remember. Um, yeah, it never really popped off. It got to like maybe a zero point 0.5 floor during the August bull, and
Hmm.
then it's sort of been hovering between zero point 0.1 and zero point 0.2. Feels like for months.
Hmm.
But the team is still building. They're doing cool things. They're developing the entire like ecosystem. They actually rebranded a little bit from Top Dog Beach Club to Top Dog Studios, I think.
Studios.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're looking at other revenue streams to bring into the ecosystem and things like they have a launch pad and yeah, they're just always on the lookout for how to create and add value not just to their holders, but also to the whole space. And I think it's just a cool project, a great project that is at a reasonable price, unless it's jumped up recently. I haven't checked, but yeah, big fan.
Top Dog Studios. Okay, I'm just finding one to pin here. I'm pinning the one that's the Robo Gang. So you don't own any Zeneca currently of these?
Oh no, I have a bunch.
Oh, how many do you have?
That's a good question. I have between 5 and 20.
Is that your magic number? I feel like this is what I'm hearing a lot. Is like between 5 and 30 is kind of the numbers you're kind of hitting.
Yeah, and then if I really love a project, I'll go higher. Lately, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just search my wallet and see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How much? What do you guys like for the rest of you guys when you are? I feel like I'm always guilty of not having conviction, but not having enough conviction to buy like on the level of buying like 20. Even with BYO Pills and Jenkins, I bought like 5. So what? Like when you guys are kind of going in deep on some of these, what's your kind of like magic number to either spend or total? Like, how do you look at it as like, I'm going to go spend 1 or 2 ETH? Do you look at it as I'm going to go buy 20 of these from the floor, or I'm going to buy a certain percentage? How do you guys approach that?
I think for me, a floor sweep is like 2 to 3. I think I save a lot of my ETH. I don't usually have a ton like in my MetaMask. I do it on purpose because I feel like I'll just spend it if I have it. So I put it elsewhere. And it's kind of to my detriment sometimes because I think you do have to have some sort of bigger conviction to really make the most out of your investments. But again, I'm kind of fighting through me being somewhat new to crypto through NFTs and just my general risk averseness. Yeah.
Quad, Phil. Quad, go ahead.
I think it all depends on, how much liquidity you have, because you don't want to like spend your whole bankroll, right? Because then something else could come up, later that evening that is worth spending. So it's just, how much conviction do you have, combined with how much just liquid ETH do you have to spend, is kind of just what you got to go by and play it by ear. But in this space, liquidity is king.
What is your biggest like floor sweep that you guys have done?
BYO Pills land. I bought 10 of them for 0.2 each.
Wow, nice.
And one of those ended up being that dominant land that has a 22
Yes. Nice. What about the rest of you guys? The biggest, like so far, your biggest like, all right, I'm fucking doing this. I'm spending tons. I'm going for it.
I want to hear Zeneca's because I don't think I have one.
It's probably Boss Beauties actually. So I missed the mint, and then I saw it like half an hour after it minted out, and I was kicking myself because then I saw the website and I was like, this is just an awesome project. I would have loved to have minted lots. And then I got, I believe, 41 at somewhere between like 0.1 and 0.2.
Wow.
Is roughly where I got them at. And yeah, I still have them. And that's probably the biggest floor sweep. I've like minted more numbers than that, but in terms of sweeping the floor, I believe that's the most.
Nice. If you guys, this is a question. We talked about this last week too, and I'm getting that question a lot now from friends that I told them about NFTs for a while and they haven't been sure, but now they're coming back, and I'm being asked questions like, "Hey, I have 10 grand to spend in NFTs. What do I buy? I got 20 grand to spend. I want to get started. Where do I start?" And obviously the sober advice to give them is to tell them like, hey, start with a couple $100, right? How do you guys answer that right now? Especially if obviously you want to get them, and if somebody's like, hey, I have $1,000, I want to go grab something, but where do you send them, right? Do you tell them, hey, just go for ETH aliens or for a Elite 8 entry token, or how do you kind of help people navigate that at this point?
I think I'm going to keep this really short because I'm not an expert by any means, and I just go with what I like, and I don't usually go for any of the big stuff. But It's one of the questions I actually hate the most. It really is. After the question of how much do you think this is worth, that's my least favorite question that I get, because it's like it's worth what you either research it to be or what you think it's worth, not what I think it's worth. So don't ask me that because I hate that question. But it's yeah, I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say. What the hell, man? I went way off track.
That's a good start. Don't ask Phil any questions.
No. So
whatever you do when you
okay.
start an NFT is don't ask Phil his opinion.
Listen. If I like something, you'll know about it, right? That's my
don't
advice.
Bother Phil.
Just follow my Twitter. When you see me going crazy about something, it's not because I'm being paid by them. It's because I really like it and I'm going.
I like you just went from I'm not an expert to don't ask me questions to just buy whatever I tweet about.
I didn't say buy it. I said if you really want to know what I like and what I'm buying, I make it public. Like the Pantouf is the best example. Nobody else likes those. We're the only two who ever bought any ever in history of those things, and they're still around. But mine are locked in my MetaMask, so I'll never see them again, and I'll probably have to buy more when I get out. But if somebody's actually asking me that, I'll probably ask them what they like, what they're into, because onboarding new NFT users is not the easiest thing. And if it's someone that's really kind of lost with crypto and it's their first time in crypto and they don't really know anything about crypto or NFTs, I'll obviously recommend them something easy in terms of onboarding, right? So, if they like music, if they like sports, if they like, if they're big, we just recently saw it with that Players Lounge drop for the Georgia Bulldogs. That onboarded all sorts of new people to NFTs from the college sports world. Do you know what I mean? Those are not people I would send anywhere else but what they're passionate about and what they like as their first experience in NFTs. So that's how I answer that question. What are you into? And keep it simple at first. And then once you get more familiar with it, and then if you own something you really like to start and not something you think, if you ask somebody what you should buy and they tell you to buy it and it doesn't turn into $1 million like you expected, you'll probably be done with NFTs and be like, yeah, screw this. I knew this wouldn't work, right? But if you buy something you're passionate about, if you buy something that you can change to your profile picture, and over time it grows, and that leads you to learning more about NFTs and crypto and all that, that's the best kind of onboarding. And I think it needs to happen a lot more because, like you said, you have people who disappeared out of nowhere and now they're coming back, right? So why'd they disappear? Because, who knows? Maybe it didn't work out for them. Maybe they put a bunch of money in the Top Shot and it didn't work out, when things went down. So maybe that wasn't the best place to start for them. And I have a lot of friends like that too. They're not into basketball and they're not into sports, but they bought a shitload of Top Shot at first because they heard of what was going on and they kind of had the mentality of get rich quick. And when that didn't happen, goodbye NFTs. I'm out, right? So, but now we've developed a lot more a year later, and I think again, always first question for me would be like, what are you into? And depending on that, I'll send them in that direction. So many avenues, man.
My first question is usually. I say like, what do you know about NFTs? And if they say like absolutely nothing, that's like part of the reason why I just made this section of my website that I'll just send them to and say, read everything on here. You set up your MetaMask, and then like come back to me with questions. I think if they're a friend that's like a really close friend of mine, I've definitely sent them NFTs to get started. So I've sent them a couple of ones that they're not hidden folder, but they're not like top of the line. And, hopefully what that will do is get them involved in the Discord community and they can start kind of learning what that's all about and see if it's for them or not. But if it's more of acquaintance, I just say, go to this website and like read all of it. And like, if you're serious about it, yeah, come back to me and we can talk about it.
How do you guys, just flip back to something Phil D said earlier, and even something that Zeneca is suggesting right now. And this is something I get a lot. As you can tell, it's like you guys are people close to me. You know that I just sometimes I fall backwards hilariously into profits without really knowing what I'm doing and make huge ETH gains. But a lot of it is based kind of on vibes sometimes. And inevitably, as much as we want to think of ourselves as like ice cold NFT collector traders, inevitably the vibe check and the emotions are going to play so much into it. Sometimes you're just at the mint page or you're in the community and you're like, man, I'm vibing with these so much and I like these. How do you keep yourself kind of sober when you are really vibing with something to maybe make sure you don't, like, how do you kind of reality check yourself when you're really enamored with the art or with something, but you also know that you need to do your homework. Like how do you manage yourself that way?
I try to think of them as an ERC20 token. Like I try to think of them as a like if it was some other coin, and I try and take the visuals out of it and start to look at like the metrics and stuff like that. I try and go like really quantitative if I'm to a point where I'm getting like emotionally attached to an NFT. Yeah, that's what I do.
LG, once you get hurt a couple times, you'll start, taking things into consideration and not getting as emotional.
What? How do you? Okay, so Quad, you're ice cold at this point.
No, no, no. I mean, I've only been emotional over one NFT, and that's obviously my ape. But
Oh,
I'm not above emotions. I'm looking for a
does your
vacation I'm
ape have a
credit
name?
for.
Does your ape have a
No,
name?
no.
That's how you get
It
Name.
attached, LG. That's how you get
Yeah.
Yes,
attached.
sure. Yeah. No name, no name, just ape
It does
number,
not have a
whatever.
name, and it has a price.
That's a fantastic line for managing your emotions. It doesn't have a name, but it has a price. I love that.
LG, I have
Yeah.
a question. Sorry, I have a question for everybody here, and
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from you guys because I know we have a lot of people listening that are maybe new to NFTs or they're starting to dabble in now that, the KD thing went out today. A lot of people are like, what? Hold up. Let's see what this is all about. Um, I want to hear from you guys. When you get into Quad, I know you, dude, you're into everything. So I don't know if this applies to you or not, but you're just like the master of NFTs in terms of what you get into, and you seem to hit gold with everything, like everything, man. So I'd love to follow your every step. I just can't do it. But
Phil, hold on. There's a hidden folder on OpenSea for a reason, okay? And no one in this space, not even Dingling, who's holding a bag of 500 Apimon eggs, hits on everything.
oh my god, does he really have 500 eggs?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Dingling has a lot of stuff like that.
I don't
Phil,
think he.
finish your question.
So basically, when you guys are getting into all these projects, um, are you looking? And I know this is a very common question, but I want to hear from you guys since I know you guys. Are you looking for the next apes? Not that there is a next apes or a next, punks or anything like that. It's going to be hard at this point for anything to hit those levels. Maybe not. But is that what you guys are looking for? Is that your intention when you guys are getting into NFT projects? Because I've had these discussions many times. For me, being into ballers, I don't know what's going to happen with ballers. But for me, if it never hits ape levels or anything like that, I'm totally okay with that. If it does, that's just gravy for me. But I'm at the stage where I'm having such a good time and I could easily sell them, make profit now, but I'm not interested. I want to be part of this community and see what's next. Is that how you guys approach these projects? Or are you just looking to, some of them you see them as an easy flip, some of them you actually love the art and you just want to own them? How do you guys approach that? And is there a balance there or is that all the same gear for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know that's a hard question to answer. But I would say that for me, if I sold everything that I own from like Pain Gang or Ghost today, and um, stayed in the community, I think that particular community would be helpful for me, and I would learn a lot. I like to kind of hang out and get more attached to the NFTs where it's not just like financial game, but I do learn things about Web3 and the space from them, not just about upcoming projects. And I think for me, that's because, again, I'm like late to crypto. So I'm trying to be early to other things since we're here right now. But I'm not going to lie. I would say for me, mostly, the reason I got into NFTs in the first place is because of student loan debt, right? That I had, and that I was like, I'm never going to pay this off if I don't get more aggressive in what I'm looking at. Weirdly, that got me into buying basketball gifts, but it led me to here. So that's kind of the initial motivation for me. But now it's definitely made it into much more over the past year than I ever expected in terms of the community that I've met in real life, especially.
Wow, did not know that. CT, congrats.
Thanks.
Pay off the college debt with some LeBron gifts. That's great. or videos. Um,
I think I know
guys,
the answer from Quad on this one, because Quad, I think Quad, nobody flips like Quad. Quad can make any sort of, I mean, Quad can make profits on anything in the snap of a finger. But Quad, what I want to hear from you is, are you making those profits to really dive into what you like, or is everything you do just profit based?
No, I definitely support a lot of artists that I like. That I don't care what the floor is or anything like that. I really enjoy things like Greg Mike paintings. He's an artist that does a lot of in real life stuff, but also has dived into the NFTs. Um, but you got to kind of realize like where your bankroll is, right? You can't go buying art for the art if your goal is to like grow your bankroll in a month, right? Because there's not a lot of art that just appreciates that quickly, and if it is, you got to kind of think of why it is, right? Like maybe the old school days of art blocks where there was actually still a gas war and there was money to be made there. But now it's a Dutch auction, and it settles kind of right around where it is. And so yeah, you got to kind of treat yourself as they call it. If you make some profits, buy into maybe a project that doesn't get some shine, but you just really love the dev team, or you just really love the mods in there, or every single time you go in there, there's a good vibe, and you're just like, hey, I just want to support this project, and so you put a little bit towards there, but you got to take some W's to be able to do that, right? You can't just hold on to everything.
I've got a question for Zeneca and for the rest of you guys as well. As whether you consider yourselves an influencer or a person of influence or a community leader or a thought leader or just a fantastic collector who likes to share with everybody in the community, how do you manage? And Zeneca, I'm going to throw it to you because you've got the biggest following here. How do you manage aping into a project like you're suggesting here, where you might go totally ham on nuclear nerds later or something like that? How do you manage that with how you put out your content and how you discuss that? Because even for me, in the past, obviously the first mint, people have accused us heavily of being like, oh, you're just a top shot chill, you secretly work for them, like we you get that amount, and it comes with the territory, absolutely. And you're always going to be, obviously assume that you're buying and trading with good intentions, and that you're just grabbing stuff that you like, and stuff that you think will have good value in the future. How do you manage that with kind of discussing that with your community? And also, obviously, when you buy something and you spend like 4 ETH aping into something, sweeping the floor, you do want to share that as well, right? Like you're excited about it, and you want to share it with people that and your friends and your followers. But obviously, there's a fine line there between doing that and it being seen as pumping your bag, so that the price will keep going up after you bought it. Zeneca, how do you walk that line?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, especially as you get more followers and people just, for better or worse, are influenced by the things you post. Um, and where the market's so like immature or like new, and where just one person or one tweet can move the market so much, you got to be really careful. I think, yeah, I'm hyper cognizant of it at all times, and I think that just like probably the biggest thing is if I ever just mention a project, I'm just like, I don't sell it anytime after. Honestly, the projects I mentioned months ago, I'm like, oh, I really pumped it up, and it went from the prime example is Eponym. It's I love that project so much. When it came
Mm-hmm.
out, I was minting it heaps, and like I think for like a week, I would just keep just posting tweets of my eponyms that I loved, and the floor went from like point 0.1 to over 1 ETH, and I had 50 of them, and I was like, this would be a good spot to take some profit, but it just didn't feel right because I had just been pumping them so much. So I think it all comes down to like your personal ethics and morals and what you can sleep with at night. Um, but yeah, know that if you do tweet and share projects, people are gonna, especially favorably, people are gonna be influenced by it, and that it will affect the price. And that's why I only share projects that I genuinely like and I think are good projects and have good people working on them and that kind of stuff. And obviously, I don't do it for money or I don't take payment or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm careful not to share anything that's like shady or rug pulley or anything related to that. if it's a project that I think is cool and I'm buying into it because I like it, then sometimes I share it. Sometimes I don't, but and sometimes I even buy things on not my main account just because for whatever reasons. But if I do happen to share it, then it's like, yeah, okay, I'm not selling this bag for a long time.
I like that. Yeah, you have to be careful when you sell it after you talk about it. Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a funny wrinkle, but of course, and obviously being cognizant that it's like, yeah, you talking about it, right? People look up to you and they might buy some because you talked about it. People might go out and buy all these projects we're talking about today. And, that if the project then like does 2x or 3x, then it might be tempting to sell some of them, but then you can't, you got to be really careful with that, knowing that you may have had an impact there. So, yeah, that's a tricky one if you do want to do some of that trading, but also, you want to discuss your wins and losses and purchases with your community. What about the rest of you guys? How do you do that? Phil D, the hype master. How do you manage that, right? Because you're always hyping up projects, stuff that you love, absolutely. But if you own a bunch of, if you own like 10 ballers right now and they're cresting $2,000, then it's a natural thing to maybe sell one to take back profit as well, even though you love the project, right? That's kind of the normal cycle of things. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, I'll have to be honest, and I don't want to set the ballers world on fire right now. The only way because listen, the ones I minted originally, I'm kind of attached to them, right? Like I've got one of the best, like my profile picture is, to me, the best baller out there. A lot of people agree, but then there's tons of other amazing ones out there. But then I've also got one of the worst ones, not just looks wise, but statistically, the absolute worst baller, maybe in the entire world. But I could have sold them, but I haven't sold them because I've got a bit of an attachment to them. And that would have been an easy profit because we paid $200 for those. The floor right now is hovering around 1,800. And in the back of your mind, and I know a lot of people put a lot of focus on this, but in the back of their mind, you're always saying, what if one day these do end up taking off? And, we just saw Duncan Robinson, throw his name into the picture. And he said he was having locker room chats with the other guys about buying ballers and things like that, right? So you don't know. What if a bunch of NBA guys all of a sudden say, hey, we want some ballers, right? And there's not that many available. And you don't know. But for me, it's, I'm always attached to what I first kind of mint, especially when there's only one of them. Top Shot's different. You get something cool on Top Shot. If there's 50 others, whatever. You know what I mean? That's a little bit different. But the fact that this is the only one that looks like this, there's no other like it. It is a good idea to take away profit. But for me, something like ballers, I'm in it for the long term. I'll stick around, and I prefer to actually buy more than I do to sell them. And I think a lot of people feel that way. But there's nothing wrong. I've always talked about balance when it comes to projects. People get really mad at flippers and people who buy just to turn a profit. And that's why I was saying that to Quad. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the game too. I knew the answer to Quad because we've seen Quad on camera. And if you see the room that Quad, goes on camera in, he's got like millions of pieces of art that he's collected, whether it be from the NFT world or not. He's a passionate collector at the same time. So when he's flipping and constantly making money on some of these NFTs, he's doing it to invest somewhere else most of the time into stuff he really likes. But I just wanted to hear him say it and enjoy hearing him speak. So I had to make him say it. But I knew the answer. So yeah,
I will give Quad the credit. He's a fantastic trader, but he's a collector at heart. He is a collector at heart. So he's got all the clothes. He's got all the art in his house, in his background, and everything. So kudos to Quad for being able to do both. Be both.
Yeah, I can prove I'm a collector at heart because I lost so much money on Top Shot.
Oh boy,
yeah.
Here we go.
Well,
here we go.
Here's a good example: is that in that ballers sweep the other day, when that group went on a rampage and bought all those ballers at the same time. I knew one of the people selling his, and he didn't think he was going to sell it, but he's trying to go to Vegas in the next couple of weeks for an event, and financially he couldn't do it. So at the time he said, you know what, I really want to be part of this event, so I'll sell maybe one of my ballers and see if it can pay for my trip. And it ended up paying for his trip and maybe some spending money and all that. So you never know what situations people run into. We've seen so many people sell stuff and say, I needed it for my personal life. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no set rules on how you collect and what you do with what you own. So I never get mad at flippers. It's part of the game, and you don't know what they're doing it for. You never know why people are doing what they're doing. Even ballers, again, when people are selling them, you can see who's selling it, and they take a lot of crap in the Discord or in social media. But then you'll see them sell like 4 or 5 of them, and then buy something even bigger. They were selling them so they could get balance to buy something they really wanted, and not what they originally got. Right. So no set rules, man, and that's how I approach it. I do appreciate taking away a bit of profit, and that's the beauty of the Dapper Labs, the Dapper wallet now. Is there's so many projects that are part of the Dapper wallet that I can move some stuff that maybe I wasn't that attached to and invest it somewhere else now without having to go crazy on losing out on gas fees and stuff. That's my appeal to that.
Well said for sure. Before we continue, and I want to get to CT and Quad's lists as well, so we'll kind of rapid fire through those. Just shout out Patrick Patterson, who's listening in, former Raptor. We miss you on the Raptors. Some really good years with you, so thanks for listening in. Hopefully you're keen on NFTs.
One thing, LG, I will never forget Patrick Patterson when he arrived to Toronto. One of the first tweets he put out there, he asked if there's an ESPN here or how do I get ESPN?
That's good. Well,
everybody just tweeting, it's TSN, dude. It's TSN. It's all good. So,
well, maybe the first man will be the ESPN of NFTs one day, and he's in the right spot. Great story, Phil. CT, what else is on your list? We had Zeneca going to go through his list. You gave us the ghost projects. What else is on your sub $1,000 list right now?
So I think the next thing on my list would be name tag. So name tag is trying to really build like a Web3 social layer on top of the legacy Web2 internet. It's sort of like a universal username they're trying to build. So one of the extensions that they made was if you have a name tag NFT, you can tie it to your Twitter. And with an extension, people can see what NFTs you own. So you can have like your own little like NFT library that you can showcase on Twitter, which is a really cool kind of first step. But they just got a seed round of 30 million, and they have like a massive plans for 2022. So they're adding more chains. They're doing a governance token for the first 5K Genesis name tags, and that snapshot has not happened yet. So I think this is a really interesting play. And I don't know, I liked the announcements that they put out for what they're going to do this year. So that's one of them.
Nice. And then, sorry, I just looked at their thing. It says they're valued at 30 million on their seed round.
Yeah.
I don't think they raised 30 million. 30 million is an obscene amount of money to use to build. That's that's OpenSea money, man. Or not even actually. Great choice. We had somebody try and kind of extort us for the first mint name tag months ago. Who DM'd was like, "Hey, I got your name tag. I'll sell it to you for like 30 grand." And I was like, "Yeah, no thanks." But maybe we'll go buy some other ones on that. That's great. That's a project I've been curious about for a while. So really good opportunity to dive back into it. What else you got?
Another one, if you're trying to get off of mainnet and into gaming, is Guild of Guardians. So Guild of Guardians had their kind of first launch last summer sometime. And when I was buying it, I had no idea what I was buying whatsoever. I was like, okay, like I'll buy this. And the first drop were the legendary heroes. And I think the name tags right now are 0.08 ETH. These legendary heroes are 0.13-ish. And they're on that Immutable X, which is the same platform that Gary Vee's Book Games is on. And Guild of Guardians, I just really like their communication, honestly, in their game development. I am not a gamer at heart. I don't know much about it, but they are launching this mobile game this year, and the team is really incredible. And they also launched a token to reward their early adopters. And just check out the game. I just think it looks really cool and promising.
Is Guild of Guardians an OG game in the NFT community? They've been around for a while.
Since last summer, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So still
June,
summer,
I think.
June 2021.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's still pretty new, but yeah, it could be OG in a couple months at this point.
Yeah.
Great pick. And so that's legendary. We go to Guild of Guardians, and we're looking for legendary heroes specifically.
That's what I would do. I think those, those are kind of the first, if you want to call them Genesis, they were like the first drop that happened when they had, So that's what I would be looking out for.
Awesome. Anything else on your list, CT?
Only other thing on my list that I have, and it's tough. Zed Run, right? So Zed Run,
boy.
I used to be really into Zed.
Mhm.
I used to race. It's really fun to race the horses. Then they started kind of moving the races to a space that was like you couldn't do it instantly. You had to wait like hours before the races happened, and that kind of took me out of it. It's on Polygon, which is also a bit challenging as well. So I say this not having been involved in the community very recently, but I did love their 2022 roadmap. There are Z10 unraced Genesis fillies, which are female horses for about like 0.15 out there.
Nice.
It's a bit. I say this is risky because their token drop probably this is unconfirmed. It probably will reward people for like having them for a long time. So if you do buy them, I would say like get involved in the game, maybe not just to hold them, but it's something to take a look at this year, I think.
I've been thinking about that, about their token drop. And they're also Virtually Human Studios, which is the company behind Zed Run. They're also developing something new, correct?
Oh,
I think
cool.
called like the
I don't know.
Humans or something. I saw that they had a new Discord or something. They have a new project coming.
Nice.
So maybe some early access or something for Zed holders. And that's another relic of the 2021 NFT past, right? It was
I know.
Top
I'm
Shot, and then
old.
people got into Zed. Was like, okay, we like, Top Shot brought in a lot of the degen gambler crowd, and then they were like, horse racing. This is even better.
It's fun.
Horse racing and breeding,
Yeah.
was a good intro for a lot of people. Quad, what do you thank you, CT, for the fantastic list. Gilded Guardian is definitely something I want to look into, or all of those, name tag as well. Quad, you gave us Pixel Vault. What else is on your list right now?
All right, so another one that's on my list that I hold a lot of the Genesis items and then also other items is 10KTF, which stands for 10,000 True Fans. And so this is the project that some of you may have seen online months ago, where you could mint either a backpack or a pair of shoes if you had certain profile picture projects. And by certain projects, it's like if you had Bored Apes, if you had a Cool Cat, an On One, all these different projects. What you could do is basically you could go on there and you could mint a Genesis item for 0.05 of a 10KTF item. And so it was very, very like secretive with this character named Wagmi-san, Wagmi, right? We're all gonna make it San, and so Wagmi-san is kind of like the shopkeeper for these items. Through essentially the whole community doing research and things like that, we found out that the company behind this is actually We Knew. And We Knew is, if you're not familiar, the company started by Beeple and Guy Osseri, that has current partnerships with Louis Vuitton, Playboy. They have Nike execs on their board. So a very well established team and company. And from there, we've essentially learned that this is going to be a full, almost metaverse and a game. And then they just recently announced a token drop for holding Genesis items. So that will be coming soon at the end of this current snapshot period. I did just notice that the Genesis items are up to 0.3, and so that's been going pretty steadily. I've been buying the floor since about 0.1. So obviously this token drop has made people want to invest in Genesis items, but I believe that we're still like very, very early in the development of this story and metaverse. And then if you want to talk to the thing that tickles LG's pickle here, is the 3D renderings of stuff
Oh my
is
God, are you talking about pickles, man?
yeah.
No, don't bring
Oh,
up pickles.
no, we're not talking about pickles here. No. But the 3D renderings of this stuff and the art is like next level.
Mm.
Literally the models that you mint look so good, super high quality, and so that's something that'll probably get LG excited. But that's also something that I really have been investing in for a long time, because I believe that we're still, like I said, really, really early on the full development process of a full metaverse. And they've already said that this token will be how you redeem for physicals. So you'll be able to one day get your shoes that you minted, or your backpack, or anything like that. And so I'm all in on 10KTF, and have been for a while. There's a couple other just small ones I just want to rattle off.
Please, yeah.
The Degenerate Regenerate Obey project. So the floor at that is 0.085. For those of you not familiar, Obey is the brand started by artist Shepard Fairey, who is an OG artist. In terms of murals and really good original art and prints. If you've been in the streetwear or any sort of kind of like hype beast culture for a while, you know who Shepard Fairey is. And so that project right there, they announced that they will be launching a token sometime soon. They have no other details about that token since then. So this is, in my opinion, a project that you could buy a couple of, and once the actual details come out, you can decide whether you want to keep the token, or if you want to, ride that run up and then sell there on that project. There's another sleeper one, and I don't know if anybody's heard of this, because to be completely honest with you, I think that they're still really, really early in game development, but it's called Nifty Island. Okay. And so my original finding of Nifty Island was, I just saw something on Twitter and joined this Discord, and I was one of the first 100 members in the Discord, and had no idea like what it was even about. They just said, "Hey, we're building a metaverse that's going to be free to everybody," and it's like, "Cool, awesome. I like your 3D art." And by being one of the first 100 in the Discord, I got dropped this thing called a Nifty Palm. Um, and this nifty palm, we still have no idea what it does, but it's just this really cool 3D island palm. And at the time, it was pretty much worthless. No one was paying any money for it. I think the floor was like point 0.1. So I kind of listed it at 10 ETH as a joke. And then one day I randomly got an email that it sold. And so I was like, oh crap, maybe I should take a look at this Nifty Island a little bit more. So Nifty Island's goal is to build a free metaverse, at its very basic. So everybody will have an island. You and I will have an island. Everybody that wants to go on there and have an island will essentially get a free island, that you'll be able to build on, and interact with other people on. So essentially trying to almost build an open source world and metaverse, as opposed to a closed source like Sandbox and them are you can't just go get a piece of land there, right? You have to buy it from them. You can't just create, sign up and a new plot pops out. But they have a couple different items, and one of them is their gun. So it's also meant to be a game. So they have the legendary pistols.
You say gun? You get
Yeah,
a gun for
gun,
these?
yeah, like a pistol.
They're also, it's all like nice plants and stuff, but you get a. Oh, I see the game now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I see what
So
you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, so you'll be able to use your gun in the game, that they're gonna have. But in my opinion, this is a play that you just don't know much about it, and that's why it's so, like, the entry price for a pistol is 0.15. Because it's like they're very, 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 very early in the development of this, right? You've seen basically a couple like teasers of like, hey, here's an island, right? There's really not too much to go off of, other than, hey, I think that these pistols look really cool, and I also, for some reason, someone bought this palm from me for 10 ETH, and it's got to mean something, right? And so I'm excited to see what I gave up, what perks I gave up by this palm. But the other big thing, and I'll completely call him out because I he posts a lot of good stuff. Is Andy has a legendary palm,
Ooh. Ooh.
and the legendary palm, I think the last one sold for over 100 ETH.
Oh
And
God.
so if this is something that Andy is early in, I'm interested. Because that guy makes a lot of really good decisions and is also not a shithead. I really respect things that he is involved in. So just him even being there and existing is like, okay, what's to come of this project?
Mm-hmm. 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 Man, I remember your palm cell quad. That was fantastic. But those are all really great picks. So thank you for sharing those. Um, General question for everybody, and I don't want to keep everybody too long because we've already been on for an hour and 45 minutes here. Um, what in going into 2022, we're almost at the end of the first month here. There's a lot, we've kind of crossed so many different themes here today, talking about these projects that are under $1,000, right? We've from PFPs to fantastic like company like projects that have built companies out of their initial sale to artists and play to earn and memers, professional memers, also doing well. Horse races in the metaverse, all that kind of stuff. What for each of you? And this is again, this is a tastemaker question. What kind of theme, for example, like play to earn or generative art or sports collectibles? What theme are you kind of most keen to buy up early in the year here? Like if you like not just like looking for projects under $1,000, but looking for general kind of areas of NFTs in that range that you're keen on and you're most keen on to discover new projects. What areas are you kind of seeking out? Zeneca, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. What do you think?
It's a tough question. Obviously, we're going through this play-to-earn gaming metaverse land phase at the moment, which is exciting. I think it's going to continue going for most of the year. But I guess just generally something new and different. Like I'm always looking for something that I don't understand at first. If I see it and I'm like, I don't get it, then that usually means there's something there. Or it means that there might be something excellent there. Sometimes it's just gibberish, but most of the best new projects, they're innovative and they're pushing the needle, they're trying something new. And at first glance, it can be difficult to wrap your head around. So I know that's not a really specific area. I mean, I think DAOs are going to be enormous this year. We haven't really seen them aside from the shitty meme DAOs that we've seen the last couple of days. But legit DAOs are going to be a huge thing, I think, just forever from now until the end of time. But we're really going to see them come into their own this year. I don't know how many will have like NFT drops that you can get in on and have them be that way. It's like we've seen a lot of projects say we're dropping 10k NFTs and we're going to form a DAO, and to me that's not quite how DAOs should or will end up working properly. But yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see cool things happening with DAOs, and like Link's DAO, that was a cool one that they're buying. They're trying to buy a golf course. Things like that where people find a common goal and decide to rally together, and the value of it can go up because power in numbers, and if they can achieve their goals and just do amazing things. DAOs.
Dude, Link's DAO is a good example of something that I looked at for a couple days, and it was around like 0.28, 0.3, and I was like, man, I should really grab some of those. And then like I blinked, and it was at like 1 ETH, and I was like, fuck.
Yeah,
just
it's come back down off to like 0.5 now. So.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Almost there. Almost under the 1K threshold, but definitely in my range for sure. CT, what do you think? What kind of area are you targeting or most keen on this year?
I think for me, a lot of people say this, but for me, it is the gaming. Not like Wolf game stuff, like the other types of games, like Guild of Guardians, Axes, Crypt Toys, and DeFi Kingdoms. And with that, inherently, it goes off mainnet, right? So to play these games, you either need to be on the Ronin chain or Immutable X or Flow or the Harmony chain for DeFi Kingdom. So I'm kind of exploring that because I'm not a gamer at heart, and I'm trying to sort of learn more about that while also kind of seeing, you know, the different roadmaps that these projects have for this year, and they're all have very passionate communities. Especially things like DeFi Kingdoms is just extremely passionate. So, yeah, that's where I'm focusing for this part of the year.
Beauty. Phil D, how about you, man?
You know, LG, hold on, I'm kind of out of breath. I lost my wallet, and I found it though. I had to trace back everywhere I've been in the last like 2 hours. You know where it was? This is not even a joke. It was right beside a huge cookie box. I looked everywhere by the printer, by the door, everything. I couldn't find it. It was actually by a big cookie box. So I'm good now. For me, it's, you know, I think if we're going to onboard that many new NFT users and collectors in 2022, it's going to have to be simple for them. That's my thinking behind that. And for me, again, it's no secret. I love everything Flow blockchain. Actually, no, that's not true. I don't like everything. There's a lot of stuff on Flow now, like tons of shit, right? I don't like everything, but I like a lot of the Flow projects because they're so easy access, or most of them are easy access in terms of, you know, I still consider myself somewhat of a newbie, although I'm not. And sometimes I put myself in the mind frame of newer people and try and think the way they think. And it's a lot easier to tell somebody, hey, these are really cool, you should get one, when the process of buying one and selling one and all that is just as easy, right? So for me, it's everything Flow, and I think the metaverse and all that stuff, digital identity, freaking massive, right? I'm not going to get into genies now because I'll be talking for the next 45 minutes. But you know what they've got lined up and what they've got coming, and the way you can use your digital identity and own all the rights to it and build your own brand. Like, that's, to me, this is what I'm here for. Two things that really caught me and that led me down that path was 3 years ago, I believe, the Travis Scott concert on Fortnite was my first experience ever. I don't play Fortnite. My kids do, both of them, when they were younger. And again, the house almost came down, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking kill these kids. Okay, I don't know what they're doing, but something's going on upstairs. So I flew upstairs, and both of them in their separate rooms were at a Travis Scott concert. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? You're at a Travis Scott concert. And they were actually in the game Fortnite attending a Travis Scott concert. Like, the guy was legit there in the screen, and they were there with a bunch of other people. And then we went to that Paris Hilton DJ set in Decentraland, a couple months ago now. And I had no idea you were wearing a bonsai cape, dude. Like, I was like, I was today years old when I found that out. That's for sure. Because I always tell the story that you were wearing some crazy cape, and people were like, "From where?" I'm like, "I don't know what the hell he got that. I just saw him on the dance floor, or I saw him somewhere in the Decentraland flying around in his cape." And I had no idea it was from bonsais. But even that event, to me, that is like that is nuts, man. I could live in there, and everything could live in there. So things that are in the metaverse and things like that are what's coming up. But again, we're gonna have so many new NFT collectors and users coming. I love helping onboard people, and I'll be sticking to the projects that are easier for these people, and not necessarily wasting time on people who are looking to get rich quick, because that's always one of the first questions and one of the things they bring up, right? So, you know,
everybody wants to know what the next Bored Apes is.
No matter what,
Everybody and nobody. And the first thing I tell them, I was like, "Yo, man, Bored Apes sat there for a week, not selling out. Listen,
exactly.
It doesn't. That's you go find a community, and you guys go and make the next Bored Apes together. You know, get stoked about something and connect with people. That's going to come from you. It's not going to come from a person like me who's been in the game for a while. I'm just like we said today, we're just gonna buy stuff we like.
Find your niche, right? Find your sweet spot. Yeah. That's it.
That's right. Quad, what's your big play this year?
Well, I definitely like along the lines of what Phil said, was that ease of entry, but also things like DeFi Kingdoms. What it does is it gamifies DeFi, which gives almost a learning a way for normal people, right? People that aren't in the space yet, to learn and understand in a engaging and easy to grasp way. And so I am bullish this year on things that are gamified, whether it's gamified DeFi, whether it's like gamification through like Wolf Game with Risk and essentially having to analyze, different paths that you can take with an NFT. And so I'm definitely excited for things that easily break down some complex concepts in our space.
I love that. Yeah, you've been hot on DeFi Kingdoms, and I agree. We've seen a lot of people kind of coming up with like different NFT schools and different ways to learn, which is fantastic. But I do agree that I've always said that learning through immersion, through being in the community and being part of something is the easiest way. And I've even advised some people recently. Those same people asking me, where do I drop 10 grand? I'm just like, listen, man, go find a project you like, go get into the community, ask a million stupid questions, and then reverse engineer what you're going to buy. Go backwards from there. Then once you've figured it out and you're like, okay, I really like this, then you go backwards and you figure out, the mechanism for buying. And hopefully it's something easy. Maybe you can swipe your credit card if you don't have any crypto, but maybe it won't, hopefully not as complex as some of the side chains or even just ETH itself. But if that is what it is, then, if you find a project you love, you'll be motivated enough to figure out how to get it. So anyways, you guys, that's fantastic. It's been a fantastic session. Thanks all of you for chiming in and for giving us your great thoughts. We're gonna put up. I took a lot of notes. I'm gonna put up a really great thread here from the First Mint in just a little bit, kind of recapping all the projects. Put out some links to those and also recap some of the great just thoughts and alpha that you guys provided. We're also gonna put this up as a recorded podcast on our new podcast feed. We've got a few different podcast feeds. But we do have one that is dedicated now specifically to these live shows. So we record these spaces and we post them up for you guys to consume. And we've got quite a few from last week that are all typically really, really fun and a bit wild. So if you guys already subscribe to the First Mint podcast, that's where you can stick around for our regular podcasts. But if you do if you want to listen to this recording, it'll be on the link. I just pinned it at the top, and we'll put it out on our Twitter in a little bit. So make sure you guys give us a follow to get all the kind of the recap of this juicy stuff. Last question, and I want this to be a one-word answer, okay, from each of you. Out of everything you heard today, what is the one project that you're keen on, that's under $1,000? What, if you're going out to buy it right now, what's it going to be? Zeneca, we'll start with you. Hello? Zeneca, you're still there?
Sorry, was on mute.
You got to buy one project out of everything we talked about today. It doesn't even have to be the ones you named, but it's one thing. You got to buy one NFT. It's under $1,000. What are you grabbing?
So hard. I've already said more words. MFers.
MFers. Great. CT.
Planet tokens.
Oh, well, Quad's answers. Phil D.
Ballers. No, I'm just joking. That's over
No,
$1,000. But I have to say, listen. No, I have to check who's in.
One word answer. What's wrong with you?
I'm just joking. Get into Genie's early access. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Quad. One thing you're grabbing. Quad is gone.
Mute.
He's on mute.
The Elite Ape entry token. I'll be buying.
There you go. All right. Great. Some great answers. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for the great thoughts, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll post all the info so you can listen back later on Twitter, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.